Welcome, everyone, to our deep dive into the World Economic Forum's top 10 emerging technologies of 2024. We're going to unpack the tech that's poised to impact our lives in the next few years. And we're not just going to skim the surface. We're going deep into the data, the trends, and the real-world impact of these technologies, especially for you, our amazing YouTube audience.
Absolutely. And what's really interesting is that the forum's report isn't just predicting the future, it actually analyzes the present, looking at academic research, patent activity, and investment trends to identify the technologies that are gaining serious momentum right now.
So it's like a snapshot of what's hot in the tech world right now. And first up, we have AI revolutionizing science. And we're not just talking about AI assisting scientists, we're talking about AI driving scientific breakthroughs.
Right. It's fascinating to see how AI is becoming like this general purpose tool for scientists across all sorts of disciplines. Deep learning, generative AI, and foundation models are changing the game. A great example of this is DeepMind's AlphaFold, which can accurately predict the complex 3D structures of proteins. And that has huge implications for things like drug discovery and disease research.
Yeah, and the investment numbers really show how serious this is. We're talking big money here.
Yeah.
Internet companies have invested something like $66.5 billion in AI for scientific discovery. Software companies are right behind them with $24.1 billion. And even the healthcare industry is investing heavily at $10.3 billion. That's got to mean something.
It absolutely does. And what's really interesting is that AI's role in science goes beyond just research. It's being used to design new materials, optimize experiments, and even analyze massive data sets that humans couldn't possibly process on their own.
It makes you wonder what happens when AI becomes this scientific powerhouse. How will that reshape industries or even our understanding of the universe?
It's a fascinating question. And, all this talk about AI, it brings up another really important issue, data privacy. With AI becoming so reliant on data, how do we ensure that our privacy isn't compromised?
That's where privacy-enhancing technologies come in, right? They make it sound almost like magic, using data without actually accessing sensitive personal information.
It's not magic, but it's definitely clever. One of the key players here is synthetic data. Basically, it's like a digital twin of the real data. It replicates the patterns and the statistical properties of the original data without actually containing any personally identifiable information.
So AI can learn from this synthetic data without actually compromising anyone's privacy. That's impressive.
It is. And this isn't just a niche concern either. Major players are investing heavily in this field. Internet companies are leading the charge with $5.1 billion invested, followed by electronics and software companies at $1.5 billion and $1.7 billion, respectively.
This could be a game changer for industries that rely heavily on data, especially healthcare. Imagine being able to accelerate medical research without all those privacy roadblocks.
Exactly. Fields like drug discovery and personalized medicine could really benefit from this. But the applications go far beyond healthcare. Think about financial modeling, social science research, even urban planning.
Now, I saw something in the report about smart mirrors. That sounds pretty futuristic. Are we talking about mirrors that give you fashion advice?
Not quite, although that would be cool. This actually refers to something called reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, or RIS. Think of them as surfaces that can manipulate electromagnetic waves. So kind of like a chameleon blending in with its surroundings, but for signals.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How does that work in practice?
Imagine your walls and ceilings becoming part of your network infrastructure. RIS can actually enhance connectivity by focusing, reflecting, or even absorbing signals. They're like invisible antennas, optimizing wireless communication.
So better Wi-Fi without all the unsightly routers, I'm on board with that. But is this just a fancy concept, or are there actual real-world applications?
Oh, this is getting very real. Telecommunication giants are pouring resources into RIS. We're talking $25 billion from mobile and telecommunications companies. It's all about boosting network capacity, reducing interference, and even lowering power consumption.
That's pretty impressive. Speaking of connectivity, the report also highlights something called high-altitude platform stations, or HPS. I like to think of them as like internet providers floating in the sky.
Exactly. These platforms, whether they're balloons, airships, or even drones, can beam down internet access to areas that are really hard to reach. Think about the impact this could have on communities that lack traditional internet infrastructure.
Yeah, it's a striking visual, isn't it? Internet delivered by hot air balloon? The report states that HEPS could bring internet access to like a whopping 2.6 billion people across 100 countries that currently lack service.
And the numbers show that this isn't just a pipe dream. The market for APS was valued at $783.3 million in 2023 and is projected to jump to $8.2 billion by 2033.
Wow. from balloons to billions. Now that's what I call reaching for the sky.
Indeed. And it's not just about internet access. HEPS can also be used for things like disaster relief, environmental monitoring, and even precision agriculture. So the potential is vast.
Okay, so we've got internet from the stratosphere. What happens when all these new devices and platforms come online? Can our networks even handle all that extra traffic?
Well, that's where integrated sensing and communication, or ISAC, comes in. It's all about giving our networks a sixth sense.
A sixth sense. Are we talking about networks that can predict the future now?
Not quite that advanced, but it's still pretty revolutionary. ISAC basically allows networks to sense their surroundings. It combines data collection and transmission in one system, which makes them more efficient and opens up some really interesting possibilities.
Okay, give me a real-world example. How does this sixth sense actually work?
Well, imagine a smart grid that uses ISAC sensors within the grid, can monitor electricity consumption in real time, which allows for dynamic adjustments and greater efficiency.
So we're talking about smarter grids,
Yeah.
potentially safer roads.
Exactly. And the investment community is taking notice. We're seeing significant investment in ISAC from internet companies, electronics companies, and mobile and telecommunications companies, which shows just how broad its applications could be.
Okay, so all this talk about connectivity and smart systems makes me wonder about the metaverse.
Yeah.
Where does that fit into all of this?
Well, the metaverse might be making more of an impact than you think, but maybe not in the way you'd expect. Our next stop takes us to the construction industry, where immersive technologies are transforming the way we design, build, and maintain our physical world.
Construction. That doesn't sound very futuristic.
Don't be fooled by that. The construction industry is ripe for disruption. We're seeing immersive technologies like virtual and augmented reality being used to create digital twins of buildings, allowing architects and engineers to collaborate in virtual spaces, identifying potential problems before they even arise, and even simulating how a building will perform under different conditions.
Yeah, no more blueprints. Everyone's wearing VR headsets now.
Well, blueprints aren't going anywhere. But the possibilities with immersive technology are exciting. Think about reducing waste, improving safety, and making construction more sustainable. And that's critical, considering that construction contributes to a whopping 40% of global CO2 emissions.
40%. Wow, that's a huge chunk. So using VR could actually help fight climate change.
Exactly. And it's not just about reducing emissions. The metaverse could also help address the labor shortage that's plaguing the construction industry.
There's a labor shortage in construction. I thought that was a booming industry.
Well, the demand for skilled workers is outpacing the supply. But immersive technologies can create virtual training environments, allowing people to learn how to operate heavy machinery or master complex construction techniques without any real-world risk.
So the metaverse could be training the next generation of builders. That's pretty cool.
It is. And it could help attract younger generations to the construction industry who are more comfortable with these digital tools and virtual environments.
Okay, so all this futuristic tech has got me thinking about the practicalities. With global temperatures on the rise, are there any innovations that can help us stay cool?
You're in luck. Our next technology is inspired by something we all have: muscles. Get ready for elastic caloric heat pumps.
Elastomute? That sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It might sound futuristic, but the concept is actually pretty simple. Elastic caloric materials release and absorb heat when they're stretched or compressed, kind of like our muscles do.
So are we talking about walls that can cool down a room? No more bulky AC units?
Well, it might not be that straightforward just yet, but elastic caloric heat pumps have the potential to be way more efficient and eco-friendly than traditional cooling systems. And that's important when you consider that global energy demand for cooling is projected to triple by 2050.
Triple. That's a lot of energy consumption, not to mention the environmental impact.
Exactly. And traditional cooling systems often rely on refrigerants that are harmful to the environment. Elastic caloric heat pumps, on the other hand, can be made from readily available materials like nickel and titanium, which makes them a much more sustainable option.
So good for the planet and potentially good for our wallets.
I like it.
The potential is definitely there. Researchers are working on making these materials more durable and scaling up production to meet that growing demand.
So not quite ready for prime time yet, but definitely something to keep an eye on, especially as the planet continues to warm.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about another challenge facing our planet: climate change. This next technology offers a potential solution: microbes.
Microbes, I thought those were the things that made us sick.
Well, some microbes do cause illness, but others are actually tiny heroes in the fight against climate change. We're talking about carbon-capturing microbes that can transform greenhouse gases into valuable
Wait
products.
a minute. So these little guys can actually eat pollution and turn it into something useful.
That's the idea. There are two main approaches. Some microbes use sunlight to convert CO2 into biofuels, bioplastics, or other valuable products, and others use chemical energy to achieve the same goal.
So a natural solution to a man-made problem. So are these carbon-capturing microbes just a lab experiment, or are they actually being used in the real world?
They're starting to move beyond the lab and into the pilot stage. Companies are building facilities to test and refine these systems, and global investment in this technology has already reached $6.4 billion in 2022.
That's a pretty big investment and shows that people are taking this technology seriously.
They are. And as the technology matures, we can expect to see even more investment and innovation in this space.
It's fascinating to think that these tiny organisms could play such a big role in helping us achieve a net zero emission world.
It's definitely a possibility worth exploring.
You know, it seems like a lot of these emerging technologies are focused on tackling these big challenges like climate change and sustainability. It's encouraging to see the tech world taking these issues seriously.
It is. And our next technology takes us to a sector that often gets overlooked in the sustainability conversation: animal agriculture.
Animal agriculture. Aren't cows and pigs part of the problem when it comes to climate change?
They can be, but it's not that simple. The way we feed livestock has a huge impact on their environmental footprint. And that's where our next game changer comes in: alternative livestock feeds.
So what are we talking about here? Are we putting cows on a vegan diet?
Not quite vegan, but there's definitely a shift towards more sustainable and nutritious alternatives to traditional feeds like soy maize and wheat. Think about using things like insects, algae, and
Hmm.
even food waste to create high-quality animal feed.
Insects as cattle feed. I don't know if I'm ready for that.
It might sound strange, but it's a really smart solution. Insects are incredibly efficient at converting organic matter into protein. They require far less land and water than traditional crops, and they can even be raised on food waste, which helps reduce our overall waste stream.
So it's good for the environment and it helps reduce food waste. But what about the nutritional value for the animals?
Insects are packed with protein, vitamins, and minerals, making them a really healthy and sustainable food source for livestock. And the market for these alternative livestock feeds is growing rapidly. It was valued at $3.96 billion in 2023, and it's projected to reach $8.2 billion by 2033.
Wow, from bugs to billions. That's a pretty impressive growth trajectory.
It is. It highlights the growing recognition that we need to rethink how we produce food, not just for ourselves, but for the animals we raise as well.
This is all fascinating. But for our final stop on this deep dive, let's explore a technology with the potential to save countless lives: genomics for transplants.
This is groundbreaking technology, but ultimately it's about hope. We're talking about using gene editing to address the organ shortage crisis.
So are we talking about growing organs in a lab? That sounds like science fiction.
We're not quite there yet, but we're getting closer. Gene editing is making it possible to transplant organs from animals to humans, a process known as xenotransplantation.
Transplanting animal organs into humans. That sounds pretty radical. Has that ever been done before?
It has. In March 2024, the first successful transplant of a pig kidney into a living human recipient was performed. It was a monumental achievement, and it could pave the way for a whole new era of organ transplantation.
Wow, that's incredible. Are pig organs actually compatible with human bodies?
Not naturally, but that's where gene editing comes in. Scientists can modify pig genes to make their organs more compatible with human immune systems, which reduces the risk of rejection.
So it's like giving pig organs a human makeover.
In a way, yes. And it's not just kidneys either. Scientists are exploring the possibility of transplanting hearts, livers, and even pancreatic cells from pigs to humans.
This could revolutionize organ transplantation and offer hope to so many people around the world who are waiting for organ transplants. But I imagine there are a lot of ethical considerations that come with this.
Absolutely. Xenotransplantation raises some really complex questions about animal welfare, the potential for transmitting animal viruses to humans, and even the very definition of what it means to be human.
Wow, that's a lot to think about. This deep dive has been incredible. It's clear that the future is full of potential, but there are also some big challenges that we need to overcome.
That's right. The World Economic Forum's report isn't just about predicting the future. It's about encouraging us to think critically about the role of technology in shaping our world.
So it's a call to action. What can we do as individuals to make sure that these technologies are used for good?
Stay informed, engage in conversations, and demand transparency and accountability from those who are developing and deploying these technologies. The future is not something that just happens to us. It's something that we create together.
Well said. Now, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, let's take a moment to reflect on what we've learned so far. We've seen how AI is revolutionizing science, how privacy-enhancing technologies are protecting our data, and how innovations like smart mirrors and internet balloons are transforming the way we connect with the world.
We've also explored how immersive technologies are reshaping the construction industry, how muscle-inspired cooling systems could make our world more sustainable, and how tiny microbes might hold the key to mitigating climate change.
And we've delved into the groundbreaking world of genomics for transplants, a field that raises both incredible hope and complex ethical considerations.
It's been a fascinating journey so far, and there's still much more to explore.
Stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into the World Economic Forum's top 10 emerging technologies of 2024. We'll be right back.
Wow, we just covered some seriously impressive technologies. But one that really stood out to me was those elasticaloric heat pumps.
Yeah.
I mean, cooling inspired by muscles. It's just genius.
Yeah, it's amazing how nature can give us these incredible solutions. And with the demand for cooling set to skyrocket, these elasticaloric heat pumps could be a game changer, especially because they're so eco-friendly.
Absolutely. Like we were saying, they use those readily available materials like nickel and titanium, not like traditional cooling systems that often use those harmful refrigerants. It's a big win for the environment. And don't forget, global energy demand for cooling is supposed to triple by 2050.
Triple. It's mind-blowing when you think about it. Makes you realize how important it is to come up with these sustainable cooling solutions.
It really does. And elasticaloric heat pumps aren't just about, keeping our homes cool. They could be used in all sorts of industries: data centers, electric vehicles, refrigeration, industrial processes.
The potential is huge.
Yeah.
Speaking of big challenges, earlier we talked about those carbon-capturing microbes. I'm still blown away by the idea that something so tiny can help us fight climate change. It feels like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? But the science behind it is real. These microbes can actually convert CO2 into valuable products, like biofuel, bioplastics, even animal feed.
It's incredible how something so small can have such a big impact.
Yeah.
It really shows you the power of nature.
It does. And it's not just a theory anymore. Companies are already testing out these microbial carbon capture systems. In fact, by 2022, global investment in this tech was already at $6.4 billion.
That's a serious investment. Shows you people believe in this technology.
Yeah, they do. And as the technology gets better, we can expect to see even more investment and innovation in this area.
It's exciting to think about the potential these microbes have to help us create a more sustainable future. Speaking of sustainability, we were talking about those alternative livestock feeds earlier. It's not always the first thing people think about when it comes to climate change, but it's super important.
It is. You know how we feed our livestock has a massive impact on the environment. Those traditional feed crops like soy maize and wheat, they use up so much land, water, and fertilizer. Alternative feeds give us a much more sustainable option.
And we were saying insects seem really promising here. They're so efficient at converting organic matter into protein. Plus, they can be raised on food waste, which helps reduce our overall impact.
Exactly. And insects are full of nutrients, which makes them a healthy and sustainable food source for livestock. And the market for these alternative feeds is growing like crazy. It was valued at $3.96 billion in 2023 and is projected to hit $8.2 billion by 2033.
From bugs to billions. It's happening.
It is. It shows you more and more people are realizing we need to change how we produce food, not just for us, but for the animals we raise, too.
So much to think about. Well, let's shift gears a bit and talk about something that's been getting a lot of buzz lately, the metaverse. What does it actually mean for the future?
Well, the metaverse is still in its early stages, but it has the potential to change so many things. One area where it's already making waves is the construction industry. We're seeing those immersive technologies like virtual and augmented reality being used to create digital twins of buildings. This lets architects, engineers, and construction workers collaborate in virtual spaces.
So instead of just using blueprints and physical models, they can actually walk through a virtual building before it's even built.
Exactly. They can spot problems, test out different designs, and even see how the building will perform under certain conditions.
Sounds incredibly efficient. And you said before that construction is responsible for a huge chunk of global CO2 emissions. Could the metaverse actually help make construction more sustainable?
It could. By using those digital twins to optimize designs and reduce waste, construction companies can really lower their impact on the environment. Remember, construction accounts for a whopping 40% of global CO2 emissions.
That's right. And it's not just about cutting emissions. The metaverse could also help fix the labor shortage that's hitting the construction industry.
Exactly. Immersive technologies can create these realistic training environments where workers can learn how to use heavy machinery, practice construction techniques, and build those essential skills without any real-world risk.
So the metaverse could be training the next generation of builders. Pretty amazing.
It is. And it could make construction more attractive to younger people who are already used to digital tools and virtual spaces.
This is all very cool. But let's get back to something a little closer to home, literally. We
Yeah.
talked earlier about smart mirrors and that concept of reconfigurable intelligent surfaces, or RIS. Can you refresh my memory on how that works again?
Sure. Think about it like this. Your walls and ceilings actually becoming part of your network. That's what RIS is trying to do. These surfaces can manipulate those electromagnetic waves, focusing them, reflecting them, or even absorbing them. It's all about optimizing wireless communication.
So it's like having these invisible antennas all over the place. But
Oh.
are there any real-world applications for this besides just better Wi-Fi?
Oh, yeah, lots. Telecommunication companies are putting serious money into RIS. We're talking $25 billion just for mobile and telecommunications companies. They're looking at how it can boost network capacity, reduce interference, and even use less power.
That's a big investment. It seems like these smart surfaces could change the future of connectivity. Speaking of connectivity, earlier we were talking about those high-altitude platform stations, or APS, those internet providers floating around up in the sky. Do you think those will really take off?
I think they have a real shot. The technology is getting better fast, and the cost of launching and running them is going down. Plus, more and more people are recognizing how important it is to connect everyone, especially those in remote or underserved areas.
The report said that HAPS could bring internet access to billions of people who don't have it now. That's huge.
It is. And the market is showing that it was valued at $783.3 million in 2023, and it's expected to jump to $8.2 billion by 2033.
That's a tenfold increase.
Mhm.
Looks like internet balloons are ready to soar.
Yeah, and it's not just about internet access. ATS can be used for disaster relief, monitoring the environment, and even precision agriculture. There's a lot they can do.
All very impressive.
Yeah,
But with all these new devices and platforms coming online, will our networks be able to handle it? I mean, we already have slowdowns and congestion sometimes.
that's a good point. But there are technologies being developed to handle that, like integrated sensing and communication, or ISAC. We mentioned it before, but it's basically like giving networks a sixth sense.
A sixth sense. It sounds kind of sci-fi. Can you break that down a little more?
Basically, ISAC lets networks sense what's around them. It combines data collection and transmission into one system, which makes them more efficient and opens up a lot of new possibilities.
I'm still not quite clear on how that would work in the real world.
Okay, imagine you have a smart grid that uses ISAC. There are sensors in the grid that can track electricity use in real time. This means you can make adjustments on the fly and use energy more efficiently.
So the grid can adapt to changes in demand and keep the power on.
Exactly. Or think about self-driving cars using ISAC to talk to each other and the infrastructure around them. It makes transportation safer and more efficient.
So we're talking about smarter grids, safer roads, and a more connected world. Sounds like ISAC could impact so many different areas of our lives.
It could. And it's already attracting big investments from different industries like internet companies, electronics companies, and mobile and telecommunications companies.
This is all so fascinating. But for our last stop on this leg of our deep dive, let's talk about a technology that could save so many lives: genomics for transplants.
This technology is really groundbreaking. But more than anything, it's about hope. It's about using gene editing to solve the organ shortage crisis, which affects millions of people all over the world.
Earlier, we talked about that first successful transplant of a pig kidney into a living person. It's amazing. But can pig organs really work in human bodies? It sounds kind of crazy.
It does, but the science is there. Gene editing is making it possible to change pig genes so their organs can work better with human immune systems. This lowers the chance of rejection.
So it's like giving those pig organs a human makeover.
In a way,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's not just kidneys. They're looking into transplanting hearts, livers, and even pancreatic cells from pigs into humans.
This could be a total game changer for organ transplantation and give hope to all those people waiting for transplants. But I bet there are some ethical issues with this too.
Xenotransplantation brings up some really tough questions about animal welfare, the chance of spreading animal viruses to humans, and even what it means to be human.
Wow, a lot to consider. This deep dive has been amazing. It's clear the future has so much potential, but there are definitely some big challenges ahead of us.
That's true. The World Economic Forum report isn't just about predicting the future. It's about making us think critically about how technology is shaping our world.
It's like a call to action. What can we as individuals do to make sure these technologies are used for good?
Stay informed. Talk about these things and demand transparency and accountability from the people developing and using these technologies. The future isn't something that just happens to us. We create it together.
Well said. Now, before we go to the next part of our deep dive, let's think about what we've learned. We've seen how AI is changing science, how privacy-enhancing technologies are keeping our data safe, and how cool things like smart mirrors and internet balloons are changing how we connect with each other.
We've also looked at how immersive technologies are changing construction, how muscle-inspired cooling systems could make our world more sustainable, and how tiny microbes might be the key to slowing down climate change.
And we've explored the groundbreaking world of genomics for transplants, which gives us so much hope, but also brings up some tough ethical questions.
It's been a fascinating journey so far, and there's still more to come.
Stick with us as we continue our deep dive into the World Economic Forum's top 10 emerging technologies of 2024. We'll be right back. Wow, it's amazing to think about all the incredible technologies we've explored in this deep dive into the World Economic Forum's top 10 emerging technologies of 2024. You know, one thing that really strikes me is how interconnected all these technologies are. It's not just a bunch of random breakthroughs. It's like this web of innovation shaping the future.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's like they're all building on each other, creating this ripple effect of innovation. Like take AI, for example. It's not just revolutionizing science. It's playing a huge role in things like connectivity, healthcare, and even sustainability.
Right. We talked about how AI can help protect our privacy, optimize our networks, and even develop new ways to produce food. Because like AI is this common thread running through so many of these emerging technologies.
Exactly. And that shows us how important it is to have collaboration across different fields. You can't solve these big, complex problems by working in silos.
Absolutely. We need everyone involved. Scientists, engineers, policymakers, even artists, all working together to make sure these technologies are developed and used responsibly.
I couldn't agree more. And as these technologies keep evolving, we have to keep talking about the ethical side of things, like who benefits from these advancements, who might get left behind. How do we make sure these technologies are used for good?
These are questions we need to be asking all the time.
Yeah.
We can't just be impressed by the possibilities. We have to actively shape the future we want.
Well said. You know, the World Economic Forum's report isn't just about showing off cool gadgets and futuristic inventions. It's a call to action.
It's like they're saying, hey, wake up, pay attention and get involved. We all have a role to play in making sure these powerful technologies are used for the right reasons.
Exactly. The future isn't something that just happens to us. We all create it together.
This deep dive has been an incredible journey. We've explored technologies that could completely change the way we live, work, and interact with the world around us.
It's been inspiring to see how human ingenuity is being used to tackle these huge challenges facing our planet, like climate change, healthcare, and closing the digital divide.
And as we wrap up this episode, I feel a sense of excitement and responsibility. We have the power to shape the future with these amazing tools, but it's up to us to use them wisely.
I couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
So let's all stay curious, keep working together, and never forget what it means to be human.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the World Economic Forum's top 10 emerging technologies of 2024. We hope you've learned something new, been inspired by what's possible, and are ready to help create a better future. Until next time, keep those minds open and keep exploring